You pull the razor across your face for the first time, and it is perfect. Smooth, sharp. The blade cuts whiskers without tugging, without scraping. You hardly feel the pressure. It is almost effortless. The blade glides across your chin like it is barely there, and yet every whisker falls away clean. You finish shaving in 5 minutes, and your face feels clean in a way that tells you the blade is doing real work. The skin is not irritated. There is no razor burn. Just the satisfaction of a clean shave done with minimal effort. The next morning, you pull the same razor across your face. It is still good, but something has changed. Not much, just a small difference. The blade does not glide quite as smoothly. You feel the whiskers being cut instead of not feeling anything at all. You notice you are applying slightly more pressure. You notice you are making slightly more passes. Nothing you would complain about. Nothing that is obviously broken, but something is different. By the third morning, you are dragging the razor. Not much, but enough that you notice. The blade is catching, tugging slightly on your skin. You have to make multiple passes over the same area to get a clean shave. What was effortless is now work. What took 5 minutes now takes 10. The blade is clearly no longer doing its job the way it was supposed to. And you think, that is strange. I have only used this razor 3 times. 3 times. It cost me $3. It is supposed to last longer than this, is it not? But you do not think about it too much. You have been trained not to. This is just how razors work. This is what you have come to expect. You pull out a new razor from the package. You feel that initial sharpness again. Put the dull one in the trash. Or maybe you keep it in a drawer somewhere, telling yourself you will use it again sometime. You never do. It just sits there, a failed tool, until eventually you throw it away anyway. You open the new razor. It is sharp again, perfect again, smooth again, and the whole cycle repeats. 3 shaves, $3, trash, new razor. This has become so automatic that most people never question it. A razor gives you 3, maybe 4 good shaves before it is no longer worth using. Then you throw it away and buy another one. This is what we have all been taught to expect. This is the cost of having a clean shave. This is just how life works. But here is the part that most people do not know. The part that the razor companies are very careful not to advertise. Your razor is not actually dull after 3 uses. Not really. The blade itself, the metal, is still sharp. What has happened is something much smaller, much simpler, and much easier to fix. The edge has folded, just slightly. The microscopic cutting edge, the finest part of the blade, has been bent over by the friction of shaving. It is like the edge of a knife that has been dragged across a cutting board. The metal itself is intact. The blade is not broken. It is just bent. And if you know how to unbend it, the razor will cut perfectly again. In an old barber shop in Philadelphia, I watched a barber named Marcus work with straight razors. Not the disposable razors that most people use, but real straight razors. The kind that have been in use for over 100 years. The kind that your grandfather might have used. The kind that men still use in certain places because they have never stopped working. Marcus was 74 years old. He had been shaving men with straight razors since he was 18. That is 56 years of straight razors. 56 years. And in all that time, he had never thrown away a straight razor because it was dull. I asked him about this. I said, "You have been using razors for half a century and you have never worn one out." He said, "No, they last forever, if you know how to take care of them." He showed me a razor that he had been using for 22 years. 22 years. He picked it up, drew it across his palm, something you should never do with a dull blade because it will drag and catch. But this blade did not drag. It cut so cleanly that you could barely feel it. It was like the first day he had ever used it. The razor was old. You could see that. The handle was worn. The metal had patina, but the edge was perfect. "How?" I asked. He took me to a leather strop hanging on the wall of his barber shop. It was brown leather, worn dark with use. He showed me the technique. You pull the razor along the leather, spine first. The spine rides on the leather while the blade sits flat. You pull it toward the handle, never pushing it away from you. Then you flip it over, blade to blade, spine to spine, and pull it back the other way. 5 strokes each direction, every morning before work. That is it. 5 minutes, every single day. He said the blade never gets dull if you do this. It stays sharp, stays ready. I watched him strop for a week, every morning. 5 strokes one way, 5 strokes the other. Practiced, smooth, unconscious. He could do it while talking, while thinking about something else. It was just part of the ritual, part of how you take care of a tool. Now here is the thing that will surprise you about this knowledge. It is not secret to barbers. It is not secret to people who know about razors, but it is almost completely unknown to regular people who buy disposable razors at the drugstore. And that is not an accident. That is intentional. A razor company makes money when you buy a new razor package, a new subscription service, a new set of replacement blades. They do not make money when you use one razor for 2 years. They do not make money when you take care of a blade so well that you never need a replacement. The old knowledge, the knowledge about stropping, about caring for a blade, about understanding that dull does not mean broken, this knowledge is profitable to forget. It is profitable for you to not know it. It is profitable for you to believe that a blade that is bent is the same as a blade that is broken, that a folded edge is a ruined edge, that the only solution is to throw it away. But the barbers know better. The old people know better. And the knowledge is still there, sitting in plain sight, waiting for someone to learn it. Let me explain how this works, why a blade becomes dull, why stropping fixes it, why this is not complicated. A razor blade is metal, sharp metal, but the sharpness is not magic. It is not some quality that the blade either has or does not have. It is a physical property. It is the angle of the edge. When a blade is new, the edge is a perfect angle, acute, thin, almost microscopic. When you draw that edge across whiskers or across your skin, those whiskers are cut cleanly. They fall away. There is no resistance, no tugging. But every time you shave, the blade edge is dragged across your face. It is dragged through friction, through stubble, through soap, through moisture. And with each pass, the edge is bent, just slightly, not noticeably, not catastrophically, but bent nonetheless. After 3 shaves, the edge has been bent so many times that it is folded over. The cutting point, the finest tip of the blade, is no longer pointing forward. It is pointing slightly back. It has developed a little hook, a microscopic hook that you cannot see, but that you can absolutely feel. Because when you shave, instead of cutting the whisker cleanly, the hook catches it and tugs it. That is what dull feels like. Not a broken blade, a bent blade, an edge that has been folded over by use. Now, the question is, can you unfold it? Yes, you can. And that is what stropping does. A leather strop is not sharp. It is soft. It is leather. But the action of pulling the blade spine first across the leather in a very specific way realigns the edge. It straightens the hook. It bends the folded part back to where it should be. It restores the edge to its original angle. This is not permanent. The stropping only lasts until you shave again, and the blade starts folding over again. But if you strop every day before you shave, you are constantly realigning the edge. You are constantly keeping it in the optimal position. So the blade never gets dull. It never stays bent long enough to become unusable. The barbers understood this completely. They invented stropping because they needed their razors to stay sharp. They were using the same blade on many men every day. If the blade became dull, their work was inefficient. Their clients were unhappy. So they figured out that a quick stropping every morning kept the blade sharp indefinitely. And it works. It has worked for more than 100 years. It still works today. The principle is simple. The practice is simple. The only thing stopping you from doing this is that nobody has told you how, until now. Here is exactly how to do this, so that you can actually keep a razor sharp for months or even years, instead of throwing it away after 3 uses. First, what you need. You need a strop, a leather strop. You can buy one online for anywhere from $10 to $30. A basic leather strop is all you need. It does not have to be fancy. It does not have to be vintage or special. Just a piece of leather, usually mounted on a wooden handle or a board, that you can use to strop the blade. Some people make their own. You can take a leather belt, cut a strip that is about the width of a razor blade, stretch it across a wooden board, and you have a strop. Some people use a leather briefcase or an old leather jacket. Anything that is smooth leather and relatively sturdy works. Once you have the strop, here is the stropping technique. This is critical. If you do it wrong, you can actually damage the blade, so pay attention. You hold the razor with the spine of the blade resting on the leather. The spine, not the edge. The spine is the back of the blade, the dull part. That part rests on the leather. You pull the razor toward you along the length of the strop. The spine slides on the leather. The blade is at a flat angle, so the edge is not cutting or digging into the leather. You are just sliding the spine along the surface. You pull it all the way to the end of the strop. One smooth stroke, toward you. Then you flip the razor over. You rotate it so that the spine is still on the leather, but now the opposite side of the blade is facing out. Blade to blade, spine to spine. You push the razor away from you now, back along the strop in the opposite direction. That is one complete cycle. One toward you, one away. One in each direction. You do this 5 times in each direction. 5 pulls toward you, 5 pushes away from you. That is 10 total strokes. This takes about 1 minute. You do this every single day before you shave, every morning, before the blade touches your face. That is the entire method. The result is that your blade stays sharp, stays ready, stays like it was on the first day you used it. Now, let me be clear about something important. There is a difference between stropping and honing. A strop realigns the edge. A hone, a whetstones or a specialized honing steel, actually removes metal and creates a new edge. Stropping is maintenance. It is what you do every day. Honing is restoration. It is what you do maybe once a year, or once every few years if the blade gets truly damaged. For most people, for regular shaving, stropping is all you need. You will never need a hone if you strop properly. The second thing you need is to understand which razors this works with. It works with safety razors. These are the double-edged razors that have 2 sides. One blade that you expose, and you replace the blade when one side becomes dull. You strop between blade changes. It works with straight razors, obviously. The barbers have been doing this for more than a century. It works less well with disposable cartridge razors. Those are the ones with the plastic head and multiple blades in a cartridge. The blades are too small, too embedded in plastic. You can strop them, but it is not as effective. The stropping is really designed for single blade or double blade razors that are fully exposed. Now, here is where most people make critical mistakes. And these are mistakes that decide whether this actually works for them or whether they try it once, see it fail, and give up thinking the whole thing is a waste of time. The first mistake is not stropping regularly. People learn about stropping and they think, okay, I will strop my razor, and they strop it once or twice, and then they forget. A week goes by without stropping. The blade starts to fold. They pick the razor up and it feels dull, so they think, stropping did not work. Let me buy a new razor. But that is not how it works. Stropping is not a cure for a blade that has become dull. It is prevention. You have to do it regularly before the blade gets bad. Every single day. Ideally right before you shave or the night before. If you go without stropping for a week, the blade can accumulate so much folding that stropping will not fully restore it. The stropping only works if it becomes part of your routine. if it becomes automatic. The same way brushing your teeth is automatic. You do not think about it. You just do it. The second mistake is using the wrong leather. You cannot strop a blade on just any leather. The leather has to be smooth, has to be relatively soft. Canvas does not work. Suede does not work. Denim does not work. It has to be smooth leather. Vegetable tanned leather is ideal. Leather that has been worked to be smooth and uniform. If you use the wrong material, the blade will not realign properly. You might actually damage the edge. The third mistake is stropping in the wrong direction. This is critical. You pull the razor spine first, the spine on the leather. You never push the blade edge into the leather. You never drag the sharp edge along the strop. That is the opposite of stropping. That is called backstropping, and it can damage the blade. The technique is always spine on leather, pull toward you or push away from you, blade at a flat angle, never digging, never dragging the sharp edge. If you get the direction wrong, or if you drag the edge, you will feel it immediately. The blade will catch. It will feel worse, not better. That is your signal that you have done something wrong. The fourth mistake is expecting stropping to fix a blade that is actually broken. If the blade is nicked, if the edge is actually chipped, if there is metal missing, stropping will not fix that. Stropping realigns a bent edge. It does not repair a broken one. If your blade is actually broken, you need to either replace it or have it professionally honed by someone who knows what they are doing. The fifth mistake is stropping too hard or too many times. Some people think that if 5 strokes is good, then 20 strokes is better. Then they strop the blade 50 times. But stropping is not a strength thing. It is a technique thing. 5 strokes in each direction is enough. The leather is just realigning the edge. You do not need to scrub the blade clean. You do not need to force it. Gentle, consistent, practice strokes. That is all you need. Now let me tell you what happens when you do this correctly. When you strop your razor every single day and you use it properly. After 1 week of stropping, your blade is sharper than it was on day 1. Not metaphorically, actually sharper. Because you have removed the folding. You have kept the edge pristine. After 1 month, your blade still feels new, smooth, sharp. It cuts whiskers cleanly. There is no tugging, no scraping. After 3 months, your blade is still going strong. You have not thought about buying a new one because you do not need to. You have not had a dull moment. After 6 months, you realize that you have saved money, real money. You have not bought a single replacement blade. You have just been stropping the same blade. After a year, you are a convert. You understand now. The blade has not worn out. It has not broken. It is just as sharp as it ever was because you have been maintaining it. After 2 years, people start asking you what your secret is. Why does your shave always look so close? Why do you seem to have such a nice, smooth shave? And you tell them about stropping. And some of them nod politely and never do it. And some of them start stropping their own razors. The ones who strop their razors have the same experience you did. Let me give you the actual money math on this because it is the clearest way to see why this matters. A package of disposable razors costs about $15. Each package usually has 5 razors, so that is $3 per razor. If you use 1 razor for 3 shaves, you are spending about $1 per shave. If you use the same razor for a year, assuming you shave 3 times a week, you have about 150 shaves on the same blade. Your cost per shave is about 2 cents. The strop costs $30, but it lasts forever. You buy it once. So your real cost is the strop, $30, and then the occasional replacement blade when you actually do eventually wear one out, which at this rate is maybe 1 every 2 or 3 years. Compare that to the cost of regular disposable blades. If you use 5 razors a month, which is about the consumption rate of someone who does not strop, that is 60 blades a year. That is about $30 a year in replacement blades, year after year after year. Over 10 years without stropping, you spend $300 on disposable razors. With stropping, You spend $30 on a strop and maybe $30 on replacement blades once or twice. Total cost, around $60 for 10 years. That is not just a savings. That is a completely different financial model. That is the difference between a recurring expense that you have come to accept and a one-time investment that basically pays for itself in 1 month. But the financial math is only part of it. There is also the question of waste, of garbage, of resources. If you use a new razor every 3 shaves, and you shave 3 times a week, you are throwing away about 80 razors a year. 80 razors, 80 pieces of plastic, 80 metal blades, 80 handles, going to a landfill, being replaced with 80 new razors that will go to a landfill next year. That is not sustainable. That is not necessary. That is marketing. That is a business model designed to make you buy constantly. If you strop your blade, you own maybe 2 or 3 razors for your entire life. You buy a strop, you maintain it, you take care of it, you use it until it is actually worn out, and by then, years have gone by. Decades, maybe. This is the old way. This is the way people did it before disposable razors were invented, before planned obsolescence was a business strategy. And it still works. It is still better. It is still simpler. Now, there is one more thing I want to address because I know it is the thing that stops most people from trying this. The feeling that it is too complicated, that stropping is some kind of expertise that you have to have, that you will do it wrong and ruin your blade. Let me be plain about this. Stropping is not complicated. It is simpler than shaving itself. It is 1 minute. 5 strokes one direction, 5 strokes the other. A child could learn it. An elderly person could learn it. You do not need steady hands. You do not need special knowledge. You do not need to be gifted at mechanical things. The first time you strop a blade, you might be nervous, might worry you will mess it up, but you will not. Stropping is forgiving. If you pull instead of push, you have not damaged anything. You can switch directions and keep going. If your angle is slightly off, the blade will tell you. It will feel wrong. You will adjust. Within 1 week, stropping becomes automatic. It becomes muscle memory. It becomes something you do without thinking. The same way brushing your teeth is automatic. You do not think about it, you just do it. Marcus did it every day for 56 years. And he was not a specially trained expert. He just learned it when he started working at 18. It became part of his routine, part of the ritual, part of how you show respect to a tool that shows up for you every single day. You can do the same thing. Now let me address something practical. There are different types of razors, and stropping works best for some and less well for others. If you use a straight razor, the kind with a single blade and a long handle, stropping is perfect for you. This is what Marcus uses. This is what barbers use. These are the best candidates for stropping because the blade is fully exposed, easily accessible, and the stropping motion is natural and simple. If you use a safety razor, the kind with a short handle and a double-edged blade that you replace when one side becomes dull, stropping also works very well. The blade is exposed. The technique is the same. You strop both sides of the blade. Many people who use safety razors have discovered stropping, and they report that a single blade lasts for months, sometimes a year or more, with regular stropping. If you use a cartridge razor, the kind with multiple blades embedded in a plastic head, stropping is less effective. The blades are small. They are embedded in plastic. The stropping motion is awkward. You can try it, but you probably will not see the same level of improvement. These razors are specifically designed not to be maintained. They are designed to be replaced. So stropping is less helpful here. If you have any of the first 2 types, stropping is going to change your life. If you have the 3rd type, your best bet is to understand that those razors are not designed for maintenance. They are designed for disposal, and the knowledge about stropping applies less. But here is what you should know. Even if you are using cartridge razors, you can always switch. You can buy a safety razor. They cost $20 to $40. You can buy a strop for $30. And then you have entered a completely different world, a world where your blade lasts, where you maintain something instead of constantly replacing it, where a tool in your hand is something you take care of instead of something you throw away. That is the real knowledge. Not just that stropping works, but that there is an alternative to disposability, that there are tools that are designed to last, that are designed to be cared for, that reward maintenance with years of faithful service. There is a lesson in this that goes beyond razors. It is about understanding how things work, about caring for things you own, about choosing maintenance over replacement, about rejecting the idea that new is always better, that broken is the only problem worth solving, that the only solution is to buy the latest model. An old straight razor that is stropped properly will outlast its owner, will outlast a generation, will be inherited, will be used by someone else and then passed down again, will still be sharp, will still be ready, will still work as well on the fifth owner as it did on the first. A disposable razor is designed to last 3 shaves, and then it is garbage. It is designed to fail. It is engineered to wear out. It is disposable by design. That is not a side effect, that is the whole point. So here is what I want to know. Have you ever thought about how long a razor should actually last? Have you ever questioned why you are replacing blades so often? Have you ever wondered if there was a better way but did not know where to find it? And now that you know about stropping, are you going to try it? What kind of razor are you using right now? Is it a straight razor, a safety razor, or one of those cartridge razors? Are you willing to try something different? Are you willing to invest $30 in a strop and see if it changes how you shave? Are you willing to spend 5 minutes every morning and never buy a disposable razor again? Comment below. Let me know what your experience is. Tell me how many razors you go through in a year right now. Tell me if you think you will try stropping. Tell me if you already know about this method. Tell me if your barber or your grandfather taught you about stropping years ago and you had forgotten about it until you watched this video. And if anyone out there remembers their grandfather or their father stropping a straight razor in the morning before work, I want to hear that story. I want to know about the barbers in your family or the men who took care of their tools. Some of this knowledge never left the people who learned it young. It is still in the hands of barbers and people who value their tools. It is still in the memories of people who grew up watching someone take care of something, day after day, with the kind of care that says, "This matters. You matter. Your comfort matters enough that I am going to spend 5 minutes every morning maintaining this tool." That is powerful knowledge. That is the old way, and I would love to hear your memory of it. In the next video, I am going to show you another daily tool that is designed to be replaced constantly. Another object that most people never think to maintain. Another situation where you can stop throwing money away and start understanding how things actually work. Another piece of old knowledge that is still waiting for you to learn it. Stay with me.